December 1943, a German supply train thunders through occupied France, carrying ammunition, medical supplies, and winter uniforms for the Eastern Front. The locomotive driver shovels coal into the firebox, unaware that hidden among the black lumps in his tender is a bomb. At 2:47 a.m., the explosion tears through the boiler. Metal shreds like paper. The driver dies instantly. 17 freight cars derail. 300 tons of supplies destined for Stalingrad burn in the snow. The Germans investigate. They find coal scattered everywhere. Just coal. Nothing suspicious. No evidence of sabotage, no detonator, no timer, just an unfortunate boiler explosion. They write it off as mechanical failure. They have no idea what just happened. And more importantly, they have no idea it's about to happen again and again and again. By the end of the war, this invisible weapon will destroy over 1,000 German locomotives. It will supply lines across occupied Europe. It will cause chaos that German engineers cannot explain. And the weapon, it looks exactly like a lump of coal. This is the story of one of the most ingenious sabotage tools ever created. A weapon so simple, so perfectly disguised that the enemy could hold it in their hands and never know they were about to die. This is the story of explosive coal. To understand why this weapon was so devastating, you need to understand the German war machine in 1942. And more specifically, you need to understand one critical vulnerability that the Allies were desperate to exploit. Logistics. Everyone talks about tanks. Everyone talks about Mess and U-boot and Panzer divisions, but wars are not won by tanks alone. Wars are won by the trains that deliver fuel to those tanks. By the locomotives that carry ammunition to the front lines, by the coal-fired engines that move food, medical supplies, winter clothing, replacement parts, and everything else an army needs to survive. In 1942, Nazi Germany controlled the largest rail network in history. Over 300,000 kilometers of track stretching from the Atlantic coast to the gates of Moscow. Every single day, thousands of locomotives hauled supplies east to feed the endless hunger of the Eastern Front. And every single one of those locomotives ran on coal. Steam power, the backbone of the German logistics network, reliable, abundant everywhere. Coal was piled in massive tenders behind every locomotive. Coal yards dotted every railway junction. Coal was stored at depots, stations, marshalling yards. It was the lifeblood of the Reich's transportation system. And Winston Churchill's Special Operations Executive, the SSOE, realized something. If coal was everywhere, completely ordinary, totally unremarkable, then coal was the perfect disguise. London, 1941, a nondescript building on Baker Street. This is Station 15, one of the SOE's research and development workshops. The men who work here are not soldiers. They are chemists, engineers, inventors. Their job is to create weapons that do not look like weapons. Devices that can slip past guards, through checkpoints, into the heart of enemy territory without raising suspicion. One of these inventors is a man named Stuart McCrae. McCrae specializes in camouflage. Not the kind you wear, the kind you hide inside. He has already designed explosive rats, booby-trapped wine bottles, and briefcases that detonate when opened. Now he has a new assignment. Create a device that can destroy a locomotive from the inside. Something that resistance fighters can plant in German coal supplies. Something that looks so convincing, so perfectly ordinary that even trained railway workers will never notice it. McCrae begins experimenting. The concept is brutally simple. Take a lump of coal, hollow it out, fill it with plastic explosive, seal it, paint it, make it identical to real coal, then plant it in a coal yard, a tender, a storage bunker, anywhere the Germans keep fuel. Eventually, a railway worker shovels it into a firebox. The locomotive's fire heats the fake coal. The explosive inside reaches detonation temperature, and the boiler explodes from within. But making it work is harder than it sounds. Real coal is not uniform. Every lump is different, different size, different shape, different color. Some pieces are shiny black anthrite. Others are dull brown lignite. Some have cracks. Some have fossil imprints. Some glisten with moisture. If the fake coal looks even slightly wrong, a sharpied worker might notice, might throw it aside, might report it. The entire operation would be compromised. McRae needs perfection. He starts collecting real coal samples from across Europe. British intelligence smuggles pieces back from France, Belgium, Holland, Poland. McRae studies them under microscopes. He learns the texture, the weight, the density, the color variations. Then he begins creating molds. He takes actual coal lumps and makes plaster casts. Each mold captures every crack, every surface imperfection, every detail. He experiments with different materials for the shell, plaster, resin, compressed coal dust mixed with binding agents. Inside he places Nobel 808 plastic explosive. This is critical. Nobel 8028 is stable. It will not detonate from shock or impact. It will only explode when heated to approximately 160 degrees Celsius, exactly the temperature inside a locomotive firebox. He tests the detonation mechanism. A lump of fake coal is placed in a furnace. The temperature rises at 158 degrees. Nothing happens. At 162 degrees, the explosion is catastrophic. The furnace door blows across the workshop. Metal fragments embed in the ceiling. Perfect. Now comes the disguise. McRae's team hand paints each fake coal lump. Black paint mixed with coal dust for texture. Irregular streaks of brown for realism. Some pieces are given a glossy sheen, others are left matte. Each one is unique. Each one is a tiny work of deceptive art. The final touch is weight. Real coal has a specific density. Too light and the fake feels wrong in the hand. Too heavy and it sinks differently in a pile. McRae adjusts the ratio of explosive to shell material until the weight matches natural coal almost perfectly. By early 1942, the weapon is ready. SOE gives it an official designation, the coal scuttle, but operatives in the field simply call it what it is. Explosive coal. Production begins. Hundreds of fake lumps are manufactured every week in the SSOE workshops. Each batch is customized for specific regions. French coal for operations in France. Polish coal for sabotage in Poland. Belgian coal for railway disruption in Belgium. But making the weapon is only half the challenge. Now the SOSE has to get it into enemy territory. And more importantly, they have to get it into German coal supplies without anyone noticing. This is where the French resistance comes in. Occupied France 1942. The railways are controlled by the Germans, but the workers are French. Railway men, coalyard laborers, depot managers, maintenance crews. Many of them hate the occupation. Many of them are willing to risk their lives to fight back. SOE agents are parachuted into France with small caches of explosive coal, usually 20 to 30 lumps per drop. The agents make contact with resistance cells. They explain the weapon. They demonstrate how it works. They give strict instructions. Do not place the coal directly into a locomotive. That is too obvious, too traceable. Instead, scatter it into coal piles at railyards. Mix it with real coal in storage bunkers. Drop a few lumps into tenders when guards are not looking. Let the coal flow naturally through the logistics system. The beauty of this approach is plausible deniability. When a locomotive explodes, the Germans will investigate, but they will find no saboteur, no wire, no timer, no detonator, just coal. And coal is everywhere. How can you trace a lump of coal back to a specific source? The first documented success occurs in March 1942. A German munitions train explodes outside Lyon. The locomotive's boiler tears apart. The blast ignites ammunition in the freight cars. The explosion is so powerful it destroys a section of track and kills 12 soldiers. German investigators comb through the wreckage. They conclude it was a faulty boiler valve. The report files the incident as mechanical failure. 2 weeks later, another explosion, this time near Rouen. A troop transport locomotive detonates while pulling out of the station. The driver and firemen are killed instantly. The train derails. 200 soldiers are stranded for 6 hours while engineers repair the track. Again, the Germans find no evidence of sabotage. Again, they blame equipment failure. By summer 1942, reports are coming in from across occupied Europe. Belgium, Holland, Denmark, Norway, Poland. Everywhere, the resistance has access to coal supplies. Locomotives are mysteriously exploding. The Germans begin to notice a pattern, but they cannot identify the cause. Some officers suspect sabotage. But how? Railway security is tight. Guards patrol coal yards. Informants watch for suspicious activity. Yet the explosions continue. In August 1942, German railway officials issue a directive. All coal delivered to military trains must be inspected. Workers are ordered to visually examine every lump before it goes into a tender. But this is impossible. A single locomotive tender holds 8 to 10 tons of coal. That is thousands of individual lumps. Inspecting every piece would take hours. The railways would grind to a halt, so the inspections are cursory at best. Workers glance at the coal. They look for anything obviously wrong, but explosive coal looks exactly right. It passes every visual check. The sabotage continues. By late 1942, the SSOE expands the program. Explosive coal is now being dropped to resistance networks in Italy, Yugoslavia, Greece. Anywhere the Germans rely on coal-fired locomotives, the weapon is deployed. Some resistance cells get creative. In France, a group of railway workers develops a technique they call coal bombing runs. Late at night, they drive a truck to a rylard. They scatter 50 lumps of explosive coal across multiple coal piles in under 10 minutes. Then they disappear. Over the next few weeks, locomotives randomly explode as the tainted coal works its way through the system. In Poland, resistance fighters bribe coalyard supervisors to look the other way while they plant explosive lumps in stockpiles destined for Eastern Front supply lines. Trains explode deep inside occupied Soviet territory, hundreds of kilometers from where the sabotage occurred. The Germans are losing locomotives faster than they can replace them. Each destroyed engine means delayed supplies, delayed reinforcements, delayed evacuations of wounded soldiers. The cumulative effect is devastating, but the weapon has another psychological impact that the SOE did not anticipate. Paranoia. German railway workers start to fear the coal itself. Locomotive crews begin refusing to shovel fuel. Some engineers demand that every lump be broken apart and inspected before it goes into the firebox. This slows operations even further. In some regions, German commanders order that all coal supplies be dumped and replaced with verified stock from German mines. But this is logistically impossible. There is not enough manpower, not enough trucks, not enough time. The fear spreads. By 1943, there are reports of German firemen throwing entire coal loads off tenders, refusing to use fuel they do not trust. Trains sit idle, schedules collapse, and still the explosions continue. One of the most successful operations occurs in occupied Denmark in early 1943. A Danish resistance cell acquires 60 lumps of explosive coal from an SOE airdrop. They plant the coal in a stockpile at the Copenhagen Rylard. Over the next 2 months, 9 German locomotives explode. The railway system in Denmark essentially shuts down. The Germans are forced to divert trains through Sweden, adding days to delivery schedules. The Danish resistance repeats the operation. Another 60 lumps, another wave of explosions. By mid-1943, German commanders in Denmark are requesting armored trains because they no longer trust standard locomotives. But the weapon is not perfect. There are failures. Sometimes the explosive does not detonate. Sometimes resistance fighters are caught planting the coal and executed. Sometimes the fake lumps are discovered before they reach a firebox. In one incident in Belgium, a German railway inspector finds a suspicious piece of coal. It feels slightly wrong. He cracks it open with a hammer. Inside, he finds the explosive core. The entire coal yard is immediately locked down. Every lump is inspected. Dozens of explosive pieces are discovered and removed. The Germans issue a new directive. All coal must be broken apart before use. But again, this is impractical. Breaking apart 10 tons of coal per locomotive is impossible. The directive is quietly abandoned after 2 weeks. By 1944, the SOE estimates that explosive coal has destroyed over 1,000 locomotives. This number is probably conservative. Many explosions are never reported. Many are attributed to other causes. The true toll may be significantly higher. But the impact goes beyond raw numbers. The weapon forces the Germans to divert resources. Security personnel must guard coal yards. Engineers must inspect supplies. Replacement locomotives must be manufactured and shipped. All of this drains resources from the front lines. More importantly, the weapon creates chaos in the German logistics network. Trains are delayed. Supplies do not arrive on schedule. Commanders cannot rely on rail transport. The entire system becomes unpredictable. And unpredictability in war is deadly. There is one final twist to this story. In late 1944, as Allied forces advance across Europe, they begin capturing German documents. Among these documents are intelligence reports about explosive coal. The reports reveal something fascinating. The Germans knew about explosive coal as early as mid-1942. They had captured samples. They had analyzed the design. They understood exactly how it worked. But they could not stop it. Even with full knowledge of the weapon, even with warnings issued to every railway depot, even with inspections and security measures, the sabotage continued because the weapon was too simple, too perfectly camouflaged, too easy to deploy. You cannot guard against something that looks exactly like the thing you need to use. After the war, Stuart McCrae, the inventor of explosive coal, was asked if he was proud of his creation. His response was telling. He said he was not proud. He was satisfied. Satisfied that he had created a weapon that worked exactly as intended. A weapon that caused maximum disruption with minimum risk to the operatives who deployed it. Explosive coal was never glamorous. It did not win battles. It did not destroy armies. But it did something more insidious. It corroded trust. It created fear. It made the Germans question the most basic element of their logistics network. And in doing so, it helped win the war. The fake coal that destroyed 1,000 German trains was not a miracle weapon. It was not high-tech. It was not sophisticated. It was just a lump of painted plaster filled with explosive. But sometimes the simplest ideas are the most devastating. If you found this story fascinating, there are dozens more like it.